So in this video, I'm going to hopefully refer to my notes and also try and justify myself with correct information. The title of this video, early September 2022, hopefully my birthday, I'll be age 45 in the same month. As my birthday gift, this is it. The misinformation that was created crisis, where they forced me into the nut house, backdated to 2008, watching my home for evil during the time of my domestic divorce. I left him. My daughter was age 2, so they watched me, they put me into the nut house, they wrote false reports, 2007 all the way to 2016. I was discharged and then put back in there because the death of my ex-husband, there was a 7-year gap. We were divorced, and so they still carried on taking his misinformation. This is Children's Social Services taking his and her, who is me, my medical records to make more misinformation. They forced me to sign forms so that they can steal my medical records, as no one is perfect. Most of the mental health NHS is positive, clean compliance and constituency, and positive records. Most of my records are clear, and yet they found some negative records, which was a misinformation and administration errors and so on. So they were not helpful in wanting to dig deeper into my history, to use my history records against me, my medical records against me, and the death of my ex-husband against me, with the assistance of my ex-mother-in-law, who was my ex-husband's mother. And my ex-husband's father did condemn my ex-mother-in-law. He died in the same year that they took away my daughter from my care, from a loving family. I haven't done anything wrong. They attempted to demoralize me on my social media. They attempted to say that I'm dangerous, that I do self-harm, that I'm suicidal. So that's the title of this video. I am not suicidal. I don't do self-harm, and I do practice what I preach. So they created all of this, the COVID pandemic, shielding myself and not having any contact with the outside world, in addition to backdating my ill treatment by systems and abuses of powers and institutional racism. I had been socially isolated as a result, totally, denied of any human right, including my food, my privacy, and my right to have further education, where I'm extremely discriminated against, disrespected, and damned as a result of these two systems, which is Children's Social Services and Mental Health Services, which was imposed and forced on me during a crisis, my divorce, and during the death of my ex-husband. And so now that they've taken my daughter away from me, that will be the third cause why they're targeting me for abuse. She's going to turn 18 next year. I want them to get out of my life. I want them to leave me alone. I want them to stop sending thugs and millennials to stalk on me in their cars while I'm on foot. I want them to stop playing Monopoly and going from one house to the other because they can purchase homes and I can't. So it's very difficult for me not to have a choice and not to have a position of power to choose my neighborhood, to choose the position of power to choose where I live, where I purchase my home, whereas they do, where I take my daughter to school, whereas they have that choice. Behind me I have some exercises out of which I only have 2 or 3 that I'm capable of doing. I'm also very fragile with my broken spine, being as a slave to my daughter, as if I was a slave to sin. I served my daughter in love, not in fear. I served my daughter in love, not in hate, and I have every evidence of that. But my evidence counts for nothing, as I'm in the poor marginalized category without the money. So evidence only counts for something. Democracy only counts for something if you are in the working class, if you have money, not if you're tortured, not if you're racially profiled, and not if you are targeted by corruption in the police force. So evidence counts for nothing without the money, without a social network. So it's not my fault I was socially isolated, that I have no social network. It's not my fault that I don't have a large network of my family to support me. It's not my fault that I don't have a large network of a community to support me. It's all the doing of the corruption in the authorities of Hertfordshire County Council. Now, I tried to complain to the Ombudsman, but I ran out of time because they put a time frame on it to only allow 1 year to complete it. And after that year, it expires, which is totally unfair, particularly for people who have been tortured and who are going through post-traumatic stress disorder, and they have bad stress. So how on earth are they going to fit it all in with dealing with other issues such as being physically attacked, emotionally abused? It is them who are the emotional abusers, not me. It is them who are wicked and wrongful in their judgment, which is partial to suit the working class, such as Anne Gibson, who is retired. She's nearly age 90. Anne Gibson, she was my foster mum formerly, and she does not practice what she preaches and teaches, and she does not belong to a group of studying and worshipping God sincerely from her heart. It is only lip service. So in other words, she does not honour me. And to me, I know I cannot force anyone to honour me. And to me, I know I cannot force that honouring title, such as a mother or any other honouring title, until God justifies me to reclaim what Satan has stolen from me, which is my title as a single mother of nearly 10 years, including the family law, which was only there to serve my daughter under the family law area. It was not there to suit me for the area of law for discrimination, damnation, disrespect, racial abuse, and other areas of law which would come under discrimination and being defamed. The government does not provide easy access to legal aid. A lot of legal aid for courts are destroyed. It is exactly the same as the Not House for the mental health services. Totally hopeless to enter a court case where a system that pre-exists more than 200 years can overpower me with their lawyers and solicitors. Obviously, it's a money game for them. It is a gangster, so it cannot be called a government. It is not sovereign. It is not sincere, so it cannot be called a government. And yet they have a dignitary position to be called themselves a government, when in fact it is a kidnapping gangster that makes money out of poor people's suffering. As a single mum, I have had to go on very long waiting lists to have my surgery on both my ovary and my spine. And as a single mum, I could not work and take care of my daughter and be tortured and go to college at the same time. The lifestyle and the living, my priority was to recover. And the more I tried to rebuild and to defend myself, the more they had attacked me, the more they had surrounded me, and the more they had created a cultural background division based on the information that they have stolen. Paperworks, files recorded on the systems that were shared unlawfully without my permission, including my social media platform. So I'm still being misguided under the disguise of concern, under support, under a charity, or under any other misguidance that they would use to say we're here to help you, when in fact they're there to harm me. As the example of when my ceiling had collapsed during a flood and I had broken my spine in the process of moving home, I could not claim compensation as I'm unemployed. However, if I was employed, I could claim compensation for it. And I did repair that ceiling and the loft. I could have had a concussion and a brain injury when I fell through the loft, and that was very close to my ex-husband's death, who attacked me and removed the floorboards from the loft that I didn't know that he removed, so I fell. So I paid for that loft. Somebody else is currently benefiting from it, who has moved into that home while I moved out. So I refurbished my loft, and soon after that, when I was moving out to the new home, I had an accident with my aquarium fish tank. I was exhausted moving home. I had no support. I was exhausted, following the guidelines of making sure that my daughter was reschooled, and we did find a new school for the first time in both of our lives, and a new home for the first time in both of our lives. And they put me in the wrong category, which is the vulnerable family category, which is supposed to be mixed with people that take drugs and people that are dangerous and antisocial. So they've put me in the wrong category, and consequences of that is that they overpowered me by false reports for them to gang up as a group of gangsters to kidnap my daughter. They were convinced that she'd be better off without me, and so far they have proved right that she is better off without me, through her education system, her grades, her excellent grades. But how is that better off without me when they're going to turn my daughter into a mentally sick retard? She will be a mentally sick retard because she's not had a normal upbringing from age 9 to age 18, she'll be good for nothing, even with excellent grades, if she's going to become a filthy pervert that goes around and has open, casual relationships. That's what they're teaching her, to say that she doesn't need God. She's lost her faith in God. They don't provide her any insight of her history, of her roots being with me. We only have 4 contacts a year, so that could make my daughter become a sociopath. She could become a psychopath. She could become severely mentally ill as a result of the post-traumatic stress disorder for a child from age 9 to 18. How much worse it is for a child compared to an adult, that's my point. So they have done all that damage that they are crediting themselves for, and it's an overcredit on children's social services to say my daughter's better off without me, when in fact clearly she isn't. They forced me to live in darkness. They forced me to have this invisible enemy that has put me into a prison. We all call these 2 systems, which is the NHS mental health services, under the disguise of a care package. So I'm being forced to rely on and beg from my enemy because I have no family, because I'm an orphan and outcast. They target the most vulnerable. They target the poorest. And they're very fast about doing it. So how can I recover from what they have totally destroyed? My home, my one and only child. How could I recover from discrimination on illegal aid when they're continually walking all over me as a downtrodden? Literally downtrodden, my back is broken. So I should not be treated as a slave to my daughter, number one. That's their handiwork versus my hands-on to say the sign is stop, you're out of order. Number 2, the neighbour that I cared for as myself, with politeness, with consideration, and with communication. The neighbour did not return that golden rule: consideration, communication. They decided to boast that they're homeowners and they're capitalists. They have cars and they wanted me out of here. So they created a hostile environment. Another hand to say stop. I have nothing to do with my neighbours. I don't know who they are. I don't talk to them. And I live here as a civil arrangement plan. For nearly 10 years, I live in Rickmansworth, which is a 2nd floor flat. I'm not happy. It's not a suitable accommodation to be stuck with only a shower and no bath. I'm not happy. There's no lift. I'm not happy because I didn't know my spine was going to deteriorate. And I'm not happy. It's not a suitable accommodation. But I'm not happy either to move too quickly to another property because I'm severely disabled and it's very stressful to move home. So it has to be a gradual thing, and not to have Thrive Homes Association to put pressure on me to move home. I don't owe them any rent. I don't own any council tax, and I make sure to pay my bills responsibly. Point number 3, why it is a neighbourhood of hell. They've unwelcomed me. They attempted to push me out of my own home and make me lose my independence and make me lose my mind. Number 3, to understand the terms and conditions of children's social services and mental health services, to keep their law so that I can have some peace and quiet.